Hi, in this video we'll be talking about the i1 Pro 2. That is the latest spectrophotometer from X-rite. So that is the successor of the quite well-known and well-received i1 Pro. Looks fairly similar, looks a bit more modern, has aluminum and black. And that's not the main difference. They didn't think just let's make a new casing for the device. They've actually done something cool inside this device. They've added the ability for this device to measure both with and without UV filtering. Now you say, what does that do for me? Well, basically it allows you to do profiles in a higher quality way because you can measure the effect of UV light that it has on the printout that you're measuring. And on some papers the effect of UV light is quite big. Now before you had to buy an i1 device that was either with or without UV filter, and depending on the continent you were at, you would get it with or without. Now you can choose in the software how you want to use it, so that's better. And there are some other advantages over this one which we'll cover later on as well. We'll use the basic mode for now of the device. There's a video on the more advanced use of the device as well, but now it's just going to be basic. So we need to launch software. The software that has to be used with it is the i1Profiler. It needs to hook up to the USB port. And the i1Profiler software is the most advanced software from X-rite for creating profiles from every type of device from X-rite. So it allows you to do, of course, display profiles, but also printer profiles. So in that respect it is similar to ColorMonkey, but where it's different is that it can do a lot more in better quality than the ColorMonkey can. So we'll stick to basic mode for printer profiling for now. Let's click that. And the first choice we get is which printer do we want to profile. So we can choose either one of our two installed printers. Note that these are RGB devices, and that's not a mistake. They are RGB driven. So when you have a desktop printer from Canon, Epson or HP, doesn't matter, they are all RGB driven. The only way you can get them CMYK driven is by purchasing RIP software that actually drives those devices in another way that is CMYK based. But all normal printer drivers are RGB based. So always choose RGB when you're doing a desktop printer or even a photo printer of a bigger size profile. The paper size we can choose, of course, and we will choose A4 size because we're just doing a small one now. The chart of the size we can also set. So small, medium, or large. Now that just defines how many patches will we print and measure. The more patches we print, the more accurate our profile will become. So it will take longer, it will use more paper, but it will be more accurate. Because basically an ICC profile is not much more than a table that tells the software, if you give me these values to print, you will get this color. And the more values you do print, the less guesswork has to be done in the profile. For now, for demonstration purposes, we're going to stick to small. Normally I'd stick to medium. Large is possible, but it's usually not necessary because the accuracy you get with 800 patches is quite good. Patch layout you don't want to change because that's just changing the patches, the size of them. You don't need to. There's no reason to do it in 99% of the cases. Units I prefer to have in millimeters. It keeps defaulting back to inches whenever I launch the software. The next thing I notice here is that I have a print and a save as option. Now that is something extra over ColorMonkey, because ColorMonkey just gave me the option to print. And here I have the option to save. Well, what good does that do me? Well, because I can save it into a file, I can use that file and load that up in software that I use to print. If you have software that is RGB based and you want to create a profile for it, you can using the i1Profiler. You cannot using the ColorMonkey. So that's an extra. If you have a RIP, you can use this software. If you have a RIP, you cannot use ColorMonkey to do a profile. So we'll choose print for now because that's the most basic use. And the most important thing that you have to realize is that in your printer settings, your color management has to be switched off. Now normally it will be switched off by the i1Profiler because it can talk to printer drivers and switch certain settings off. The other thing you have to realize is that the media type and output resolution and other options you set here might have a big influence on the actual printout. So choose the one you will consistently use and choose a media type that is most comparable to the media that you will be printing on. So let's make it print, and we can click on next. And now before we can start measuring, we have to do a couple of things. First, we have to wait, because we cannot print a target that's just been printed. We have to let it dry for about 10 minutes so the colors can settle, because the colors might change somewhere between 5 to 10% between the moment you print them and when they're in their final color. And that usually happens within about 5 minutes. So after 10 minutes, just to be sure, you can measure your target and it will be accurate. Here is the option to choose the measurement mode. So the single scan mode was the mode that you had when you only had the i1 Pro. But here you can choose the dual scan mode, which will give me the option to do a compensation for UV or not. So I will choose that. And because we're going to do a measurement, we need to calibrate the device. Now there's something new about the calibration of the device, because normally the holder has the white reference tile there and it would get dirty. On this one, compared it to, it would get dirty. And now on the new device they have made a sliding thing that covers the white reference tile, so it remains as white as it was when you bought it. So that's handy. So just open it up before you do the calibration, place the device on there and hit calibrate. What it does, it simply measures the white reference tile using the light and using no light, and it will calibrate the device itself so that it will do accurate measurements. You need to do that every time you plug the device in. Next thing is we're going to have to measure our target. I already printed it, so I can just take my target right here, and we're going to measure it on the table that comes with the i1 Pro 2. So it's a table that folds out and allows me to take the target, and make sure you start with row number 1. You can slide it under here, make sure it's straight, and then it's kept in place by the ruler. And you can place the sliding ruler over it so it lines up with the bottom of row 1. Then the measuring device itself has a way of staying on the ruler more accurately, so that's easier as well. Get the cable out of the way. So we click on next, and there's an error in the software, so I have to go back again because I didn't do any measurements because it didn't tell me. It's a bug. I hope they will fix it at X-rite, because it's kind of annoying, because I always have to go back one step or I won't be getting the screen that I'm actually ready to do measurements, because now I can see on my screen that the first row has to be measured. So I go to the first row, and what I do is I hit the button before I start sliding, and I will wait for the beep, and when the beep is there I will move it. So let me align it and click it, it beeps, I move it to the other side and I release it and it beeps again. Now because it does a dual scan mode, I have to do the same measurement in the other direction. So I click it again, move it back and finish. And I repeat this process for all of the rows. So what we'll do is we'll speed up the video here so you won't get bored looking at me just measuring patches. Okay, that's done. Now you may have noticed, or you may not have noticed, but there's something new additionally on the system as well. If I show it on this camera, you can tell. There's a line of black and white stripes here, which is now measured by the device to tell how fast you are moving the device over the ruler. So with the other device, there needed to be synchronization stripes in between the color patches, or it wouldn't know exactly when the next patch was read, and you'd have to move in a consistent speed. Now you can almost stop halfway and pick up speed again. It will still measure accurately because it knows if you're moving it or not. So that's more smart. Measurements are done, and we click on next, and now we can choose our default lighting. When we do a profile, we need to take it into account the light that will be used to view the printed output. Most commonly, you will use D50. That is the default, because D50 is the light that printers use, offset printers, to judge printed output. So that's 5000 Kelvin light. That is a daylight color, but 6500 is also a daylight color. It's just a more bluish, less warm daylight color. So your screen is usually calibrated D65. Doesn't mean you calibrate your printer D65 as well, unless you have D65 light, which usually you do not. Usually you have a warmer light than D65 in your ambient light. So I stick to D50 for here. And we click next. And then we can enter a name for our profile. So I'm going to name this one i1, because I know then it's been done with the i1 software. Call it 3880. And this is a premium matte paper. And it will be stored in our user level, and I could also add a hot folder where it also saves it. So if you have a RIP and you want to create profiles for your RIP, you can have it saved to a hot folder, so you don't need to take them out of your system. So we click on Create and Save Profile, and now the actual calculation for the ICC profile is being done. So based on the measurements that it did, it will create the ICC profile and we'll install it into our system. So it's ready there to be used by an application. You need to do a profile for your printer more often than just once for the life of the printer, because the printer will be different when you first buy it and after a couple of years at least. There might even be a difference after a couple of months, because your print heads do not stay the same. It's less of an effect on an Epson printer, but on an HP or a Canon printer, your print heads will have a different kind of output after half a year than they had at first. Luckily they compensate for it, but if you create a profile, you need to take that change into account. So do a profile on a regular basis, and luckily the X-rite software gives you an option to verify your profile, so you can make a check if your profile is still doing what it's supposed to do. So we are done, and we got a 3D model of what we just measured. So it's in the LAB model, in the lab model, and you can see that all the measurements have been done, and it looks okay. What I can see is that this is a matte paper. If it were a photo paper, the distance here would be less, because a photo paper has a bigger color range, so that means it can make a more dense black. This is fairly matte black, so it's not as deep a color. And if you have a photo paper, this point here will be much closer to the absolute black point. And also the size of the profile, when you look at it from the top, from the lab axis, the L axis, will be bigger on a photo paper than on a plain paper. So the bigger shape you see here, the better. And the more even a shape you see, the better. If you all see all kinds of strange big dents and things sticking out in the shape, that's not a good thing. It should look something like this. So it's done. We're going to go to the home. We're not going to cover the advanced options in this video. There's a separate one for you for that. We will, however, quit the software now just to show you that the profile is installed. Because if I hit my Finder and I hit Go and hit my Alt key, I can go to Library. And in my library I have Color Sync, and there I have Profiles, and there is my i1-3880 Premium Matte ICC created today. If I double click that and go to the A2B1 table, I get the same thing I got in the i1Profiler software, but now with added color. It's just a different way of showing you the image. That's standard on a Mac. You can open any profile and do this and look at it. And it's also a nice way to compare profiles if you don't have software to do that. You can see the difference in color ranges between different media types. So that's how you create a profile. It's not difficult to use in the standard mode. The quality of the profiles is very good. It's more flexible than the ColorMonkey, but it's a lot more expensive than the ColorMonkey. So if you just want to have something that creates a nice print for you, ColorMonkey's fine, but this will allow you to do a lot more and allow you to create high-end profiles as good as they are available. So I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions on either the i1Profiler or the i1 Pro 2 or any other device for color management, feel free to contact me. And I hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching.